What's up, y'all? Coach Will, aka the Blacksmith. Thank y'all for tuning into this first original KrumpFit program. Thank you guys for being a part of it. Couldn't happen without you. I'm excited to share with you a lot of these philosophies that I have and how I want to carry over my passion for fitness into Krump. So I'm going to share a lot of the things that I have in mind and how this program can benefit us. So from the start, I want to mention some of the things that I had discussions with people about where they're looking to improve their Krump, and a lot of people have covered the same sort of things, and we're going to touch on how these are going to benefit our dance and how we move. So when it comes to things that people want to improve, a lot of people said they want to improve their mobility, their flexibility, their range of motion. This benefits us because the more that we're able to move, the more we're able to express and explore our language, right? If we're really tight with our arm swings, right, our chest is really tight, our body's really tight, we're only going to work in one sort of dimension as opposed to being able to really move freely, be open, and that's in the arms, that's in the legs, in the knees, in the feet, in the ankles, in the wrist, that's in the hips, rotation, right? Feeling comfortable moving in these areas, in these different pockets, bringing the legs back, bringing the legs forward. So flexibility, mobility is really important because we want to be able to explore these different ranges. If we're limited here, if we don't feel comfortable, don't feel confident in going into these different areas, then that's going to limit our language and how much we can move as we're doing the dance. One thing to keep in mind is also strength. People talk a lot about strength, feeling powerful. Krump is a very aggressive dance, right? So you want to feel strong, you want to feel confident through your movements. And a lot of that sprouts from being able to have a strong core, because our core is kind of our base. A lot of our language comes from our limbs and moving away from the core, right? So you can always, in a sense, be smaller or turn the volume down in a sense by keeping your Krump in here, but then a lot of our Krump is really out here and away, right? Things are always away, we're always moving, we're always transitioning. So you want to be able to have strength and feel confident with a lot of the power, right? Even into things like our jabs, right? You don't want to feel weak in your jabs. You want to feel strong, you want to feel sharp and clean, and that comes from a lot of strength in your arms, but also strength in biceps, triceps, that sort of strength to keep your hand locked out when you hit, as well as shoulder stability is really important. So that's some of the things that we're going to introduce in this program. So being strong and stable in your joints, being powerful in certain muscle groups, in your arms as well. So jabbing out here, being tight, being strong. We need to be strong in, again, not only our arms, but our core, that base that we're throwing from or jabbing from. That also carries over to things like arm swings, right? So being big, being loud, you want to be controlled there as well. So if we don't have shoulder stability, if we have a lot of tightness, that's going to limit how that looks, or that's going to limit how we play with our musicality because we're limited with only working in a certain plane. So I'm going to explore a lot of that, feeling strong in different areas, feeling strong also. Our being strong is also important for being stable, and we'll get into some of these movements here, but even in the lower body, right, if we're not feeling strong with our knees and our legs, we're going to limit things like our balance, being able to move, do different rocks on one leg, right, how hard we can hit when we're moving on one leg, that sort of transition, being able to hit, rock, jab, arm swing on one leg, right? So that polyrhythm, now you're able to expand your language because you're not limited to lack of strength. So those are some of the main things, as well as endurance. And just from going through the workouts, your endurance is going to improve because of the pace of the workout as well. A principle of this program is that you're starting all of your workouts with one lab, you're ending all of your workouts with one lab. So there's a beginner and intermediate way to do this workout. There are 2 days, day 1 and day 2. You can either do it day 1, day 2, and day 1 in 1 week, day 2, day 1, day 2 in the following week, so on and so forth. That way, by the end of it alone with just the workouts, you're going to be having 6 labs a week. If you're doing 6 rounds of labs in the week, if you're doing day 1, day 2, day 1, day 2, so that's 4 days total in a week, you're going to have 8 rounds of labs in. So that sort of consistency plus the program itself is going to increase your endurance. So getting into the fitness aspect, understanding the body, understanding how we can move. One thing to keep in mind is anatomical planes of movement. So we want to explore different ranges and how the body moves. 3 planes of motion. We have our frontal plane. Sorry, so before I get into this, what we're getting into right now is units of measure. So when I go through training, when I'm training people, they talk about, things that they want to improve. They say they want to lose weight. They say they want to put on muscle. They say they want to get stronger. Those things, when it comes to training in the weight room, it's easier to measure. So for people who are interested in weight loss, you see where their starting weight is from, see how much weight they lost after a program. That's your unit of measure. When it comes to putting on muscle, you can also put them on a scale, seeing how much muscle mass they've increased. When it comes to getting stronger, you have your key lifts, what you're good at, or what you're focused on, and then you can see those numbers go up. So with Krump, it's been a little bit challenging. What I want to do is kind of develop certain units of measure, and they're a little bit not very specific, but it's a little bit more objective than objective. But I think through people going through this, they can start to develop a little bit of a more specific unit of measure. Through this, I want people to just understand how they feel, pay attention to how you feel with going through these sort of movements as you start the program, and as you're progressing through the program, how you're feeling. So as we're going forward, we're going to talk about units of measure and planes of motion. So going through these planes of motion, you have your frontal plane, and there's 3 planes of motion. So your frontal plane, being able to move. So frontal plane. So getting into the units of measure, first we're going to start off with understanding 3 planes of motion. And in our 3 planes of motion in the anatomical plane, we have our frontal plane, sagittal plane, and transverse plane. Right? These are the ways that the body can move. Right? So our frontal plane, our body is split in half this direction, so that's these movements here. So the ability to move your arms here, your legs here. So this is our frontal plane. So going through this, you want to maximize how we feel in control with reaching, right? So we're going to pay attention to your mobility, we're going to pay attention to your strength, right? So how strong do you feel when you jab out here? Right, so this is going to be our unit of measure in terms of how strong we feel in this plane. Poses, how hard do your poses feel? Sticks feel? Right? How hard do these kicks and hits feel in these ranges of motion? How controlled do you feel when you're lifting up one leg and you're being balanced on the other leg? So this is just more movement. Again, pay attention to how you feel going through these movements. Hit here, hit here, hit here, hit here. Raise that leg up, right? Are you limited? Do you feel tight in your hip? Is it hard to raise your leg up? Right? Endurance wise, we can go through jumping jacks, and again, that's going to be endurance and also just feeling comfortable in this range. So say start off with 30, make sure they feel sharp. How do your knees feel when you're landing? How do your feet feel when you're landing? A very simple movement, but again, pay attention to these things as we're going through this program. I want to help people also improve their footwork. That's something that people mention, is feeling balanced and feeling strong in their feet, feeling strong in the ground. So if you're not feeling stable as you're going through this, or you're not feeling strong, this is something to pay attention to, because it will be improved as you're going through the program in terms of transitions, right? Moving with your feet, staying balanced on your foot or on your toes, being able to transition. So that's the movement in the frontal plane. In the sagittal plane, that's movement that's in front, movement that's behind. So talking out here, moving out here, right? So that can be drags, right? Pulling up, that sort of action. So how strong do you feel when you're going through this? So this is a simple drill here, a simple drill here, going through drags and slam combos. Boom, you can finish that off with the chest pop at the end. So how strong and controlled do you feel there? So going through that, again, just pay attention to it. There's not really any metrics, but it's a subjective movement. And again, we can go through all the different moves in Krump, but I've chosen to select few and some things just to pay attention to. So again, so far we have jumping jacks. I'll do an overview. So we have jumping jacks, jabbing here, poses. So no real numbers, but just pay attention to how you feel. 30 for the jacks. When it comes to the jabs, positions, you can spend about 30 seconds working through here. About 5 hits, feeling balanced, feeling stable. And in the front, going through about 5, slam, drag, chest pop, slap, drag, chest pop. So again, pay attention to how those feel. Last plane is the transverse plane, and that encompasses rotation. So transverse for split, top to bottom. Here we have rotation, so our arms kind of cutting through, our hips rotating. So that dimension of, crowd control, changing your movement, the areas you want to be in as you're crumping, right? You don't only face the camera, but like your crump will face in different directions. So that's a lot of core control, that's a lot of foot stability. Even when you're going into whips, throws, heavy arm swings, chest pops, those things are gonna move you a lot more than you want if you're transitioning and if you don't have the strength to control it. So it's great to be fluid and kind of move where the moves take you, but you also want to be in control of it and have that will to control that as well. So in the transverse plane, rotating, we talk about heel toe. So this is a simple drill. Right now I'm doing it outside in my shoes. I just want to be, for this video, it works being outside, but I think it would be great to actually work inside, socks on the ground, and actually understand your foot strength, right? So when it comes to heel toe, this drill, just 15 each way. How does that feel when it comes to developing strength, feeling strong as well? So that is this is transverse here. Yeah. So actually those are the main examples of understanding those planes. And now I'm going to get into some other movements that we